If you're an author or plan to be one, get excited because this podcast is for you. Book Marketing Mentors is the only podcast dedicated to helping you successfully market and sell your book. If you're ready for empowering conversations with successful marketing mavens, then grab a coffee or tea and listen in to your host, international best-selling author Susan Friedman.
Welcome to Book Marketing Mentors, the weekly podcast where you learn proven strategies, tools, ideas, and tips from the masters. Every week, I introduce you to a marketing master who will share their expertise to help you market and sell more books. Today, my special guest is Kimberly Faith. Kimberly is a powerful healer in the holistic industry. Using breathwork, she discovered her purpose and inspires others to do the same. She's a rebel who challenges societal norms and invites others to push past their limitations and embrace their full potential. Her somatic breathwork sessions take participants on a journey of self-discovery and healing, helping them deepen their connection with themselves. So get ready, listeners, to explore new frontiers of consciousness with my dear friend and colleague, Kimberly Faith. Kimberly, what a pleasure it is to welcome you to the show, and thank you for being this week's guest expert and mentor.
Susan, thank you so much for inviting me, for having me. I'm so excited to be here to have a chat and hopefully inspire your listeners.
And I know you will. Kimberly, breathwork is near and dear to both of our hearts. This is very different kind of conversation that you and I are having than I normally have. So let's start off first so that listeners know why we're going to be talking about this breathwork thing, because we breathe, we have to breathe for our life. But what is breathwork all about?
When you ask someone, do you know what breathwork is, or have you done breathwork? The knee-jerk response is, yes, of course, I breathe. I breathe all the time, every day. And it's like, no, have you done breath work? There's a reason there's the word work after breath. Some people think it's pranayamic, yogic breathing, and it's not. It's truly breath work. It's a very intentional style of breathing. We also call it somatic breath work. Soma means body. It is very intentional, controlled hyperventilation, essentially, to take you to deeper states of creativity, to clear the mind, to shut the mind off, and also to restore the body, to activate different areas of our nervous system, to take us deeper into ourself and to heal both the body, mind, and soul.
Wow. Our listeners are probably thinking, well, I'm an author and I'm looking to market my book. Why is breathwork important for our authors to be aware of, first of all, and then secondly, to even consider practicing?
Yeah. Well, let's take the body first. When we activate the breath, and in my breathwork sessions, the very first thing I do is get people to a place of relaxing. We live in a state, especially as authors, speakers, entrepreneurs, that we are trying so hard to spread our message to the world. There's a lot of stress, a lot of pressure in that. Our nervous system is composed of two parts, the sympathetic, which is the fight or flight, and the parasympathetic, which is rest, restore, digest. And we tend as entrepreneurs, authors, speakers, but, really trying to grind it out and get our message out, that we live in this place of sympathetic nervous system that we never really take the time to activate our parasympathetic. That's the place where it takes us back to that place of rest, restore, digest. So in my sessions, I take people there and then I take them on the ride. And the reason this is beneficial for the ride, and we change, we have different techniques and speeds of the breath, is it really takes you into this space of, I call it the void, the emptiness. We clear our mind. We silence the monkey mind. Oftentimes people tell me the first couple of minutes of breathwork, I couldn't shut my mind off. There's all this chatter. Well, once you can do that, once you get into this breath and body, where it's no longer the mind, where the breath takes over, because the breath knows how to go deeper than the mind, we create this void, and all of a sudden we clear space for possibility, for creativity, for inspiration, for letting things go. And I have found, especially when I do breathwork, it's always a different result. It's always a different journey you go on. But more often than not, I leave a breathwork session with all of these ideas. Sometimes I almost want to like get out of it mid-session and be like, oh, I got to write these down. These are such great ideas. And they're ideas that wouldn't have come to me had I not silenced my mind and just kind of created that empty space.
And that's so important, just silencing the mind, because I know I've got one of those minds, the monkey mind that goes crazy. And I'm here, I'm there, I'm everywhere. And then I know, having experienced your breathwork sessions, that yes, I just can't think of anything. I just have to let it go. It's just an amazing feeling. What came to me as you were saying that, I was thinking of, yes, well, people often took a 20-minute power nap. Can you sort of equate it to a power nap?
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. I have heard also a number of times when I bring people out of it, first they say, whoa, I thought that was like 20 minutes. How long were we doing that? And it's always a lot longer. It's closer to 75 or 90. But people tell me I didn't want to get out of that space. I didn't want to leave. All the time I hear that. I didn't want to leave. And as a speaker, author, and entrepreneur myself, I also am like getting that space sometimes. It's like, oh, no, don't take me back to all the craziness, all the stress, all the pressure. No, let me stay in this place of inspiration and stillness.
You've given your mind a vacation.
Yes. And your body. Your body is, you're healing your body from the inside out. Whew. It's kind of a cure-all in my opinion.
When somebody's going into breathwork for the first time, and I know, I've been in classes with you, with, multiple people, and there's this anxiety going in. Well, is there anything dangerous about it? I'm going to be holding my breath and doing things that, don't necessarily come naturally. Talk us through some of this so that we don't fear, this experience.
Yes. Since breathwork is kind of like on the rise, there's still, I'd say the vast majority of people don't know what breathwork is and certainly haven't tried it. Most times, at least 50% of my class is newbies that are a little nervous to try this new modality, especially after I give them my intro and explain what they may experience. I always start people off with a nose-mouth breath. That activates the parasympathetic. That brings you to a place of feeling like, okay, I got this. I can do this. And I build their confidence by creating safety around your breath. And I always like to also remind people that, hey, this is your breath. That's all. Yeah, I have this intro and I say all these things and the science behind it and all that. And you've been doing this your entire life. You are very good at it. You haven't failed at it yet. And that actually brings people down from a place of stress. So I tell them that. I encourage them as we're breathing. And there are contraindications for people who have chronic illness, some people who have severe heart issues or chronic respiratory issues. I give them tools that they can use during the class, as well as keeping an extra eye on them to just keep it slower. The good thing about breath work is, yes, any breath worker will try and push you into discomfort. That's the whole point. And at the end of the day, you are the boss of your body. You are the boss of the breath. If you feel like you want to get back to a more grounded place, a more safe place where it's more slow and steady, like that parasympathetic nervous system, I always give people the tool and the option to slow down their breath, to take them back to that place of safety.
And I know, in the sessions that we hold our breath for a certain period of time, and sometimes it gets a little uncomfortable. And I know I've sort of like taken another little breath just to keep myself going. And you always say that's okay, huh?
Absolutely. And breath holds are actually my personal favorite part of breath work. And it's also something that's very foreign to people because when I take people through a breath hold, most people think breath hold is inhale and hold, like when it's actually not. What I prefer to do in my classes is exhale hold, which is a very, very foreign feeling for people. Unless you've breathed with me, chances are you've never held your breath like that. Because when you think of holding your breath, you think of, jumping in a pool and swimming across to the end of the pool. Well, what do? You go, and you jump in with full lungs. So holding your breath with no air in the lungs is a very different sensation. And I invite people to relax into it. And what's beautiful about breath work is there's so many parallels to life. how you breathe, how you hold your breath, how you walk yourself through the experience and the way you live your life.
Yeah, talk to us more about that. That's fascinating.
Yeah. Let's stick with the breath hold example. I tell people the second, especially the first breath hold, because it's like, oh my gosh, I'm going into this breath hold and no air in the lungs. And I tell them rest, relax in the tension, relax in the stress, relax in the discomfort. And when they can allow their bodies to let go while holding their breath, surrendering to that feeling, I hear all the time they say, I can hold my breath a whole lot longer. And that parallels life in, hey, you don't think sometimes that you can actually relax in stress, but you can. And you prove it to yourself in breath work. You prove it to yourself in these breath holds that, hey, it's that equanimity. People think if you're stressed, you got to be stressed. No, you actually can rest in stress and rest in tension. And when you can do that dance and surrender to it, you get into a flow state so much easier.
Yeah, that idea of discomfort, though, came up when you said, I was thinking, well, authors go through a lot of discomfort. I mean, they come to me and, we talk about marketing and promoting the book and selling the book. And it's like, oh my goodness, I can't do that. I don't like to do that. It makes me feel sleazy, cheesy, and I don't want to have anything. So there's a lot of discomfort. And then, of course, the whole idea of writing the book in the first place. We've got lots of different levels of stress and discomfort. So this kind of work sounds as if it's a good medicine.
It's wonderful medicine. And you'll find, yes, it's about being in your body, not in your mind. But there are parts throughout the class where you'll kind of like take a step back mentally and observe yourself like, oh, wow, if the breath work gets too intense at points, someone can observe, hey, I'm willing to lean into that discomfort. I'm willing to lean into my edge. I'm willing to take it further. Because another thing with breath work is you experience all these crazy sensations, which in our conscious state, feeling these sensations, like say a Charlie horse, the first thing we try and do is get out of it because it's painful. It's uncomfortable. We don't like it. Well, with breath work, I always invite people to relabel it. You're labeling things as pain. What if it's not pain? What if it's just an experience? Same thing with your authors in marketing. What if it's not painful? What if it's not uncomfortable? What if it's just an intense experience that you can breathe through, that you can grow through? So I always encourage people and invite them to really push that edge and feel, if they feel a quote, intense experience in their body, get curious about it, feel it more, breathe into it more. What a foreign concept. No one, when they're uncomfortable doing something, do they try and feel it more? Well, what if that's where the gold is, right there?
Feel the fear and do it anyway.
That's right. Yes. Do it afraid.
What else would be important for us to know about this whole concept of breath work and it feeling comfortable doing it?
Well, I think once people start hearing the science behind it and the benefits for the body, we've been talking about marketing and creativity and really opening up those channels to inspiration and creativity and allowing things to drop in. But there's also the more practical side, the side for your body. I tell people that's just some of the benefits of breath work is it relieves stress and anxiety. To your listeners, again, when you're promoting a book, when you're marketing a book, there's a lot of stress and anxiety. And after a breathwork session, you just kind of feel like balanced again, like, It helps eliminate depression. It supports addiction recovery. It helps heal trauma and wounds, believe it or not. It helps, I hear this all the time after breathwork. The next day, I'll get a text or an email from someone saying, I slept like a rock. I haven't slept like that in forever. You gain clarity, mental clarity. It boosts your immunity. It increases your endurance. It strengthens your intuition. It generates and increases joy and more self-awareness. And that's not even counting the breath holds. If we talk about the breath holds, when we do that, it increases your CO2 tolerance, which awakens the stem cells in your body. We don't have to be a doctor to know that the stem cells are like the magic juice of the body. It's all about the stem cells. So when we can awaken the stem cells in our bone marrow with increasing our CO2 tolerance, aka breath hold, it awakens the stem cells and it sends healing to our body where our body needs healing. And if we're experiencing physical discomfort in any way, doing breath work, I had someone recently at one of our retreats. She was like, I don't know about this whole breath work thing. It was her first time and she went along with it, thankfully. And at the end, now she had suffered severe plantar fasciitis and she was literally like wobbling around our house and she was limping everywhere she went because she had so much pain on her feet. She told me after, she's an entrepreneur as well. She said, I can't believe this. She said, I have no more pain. And the next day she woke up and she sought me out and she said, I can't believe I have no more pain. So when we think about the physical end and the good we could do for our bodies physically, that will only improve our mental state and our emotional state, allowing us to, again, feel more inspired in service of what we do and our calling and our purpose.
That's incredible. I mean, I love that story. And thinking about all the things that this can help, as you say, adding more oxygen to the body. And I know you talk a lot about dopamine as well. You get these dopamine fixes.
Yes, I just had someone the other day. I did a breathwork class a couple nights ago, and we were talking about the dopamine release. And for the next 36 hours, after breathwork, it's easy to think, okay, we're done here. Well, nay. It actually, when you do breath work, you're shaking up a lot of stuff. You're releasing a lot. You're breathing in fresh energy. You're getting rid of stale oxygen, stale energy. So there's a lot kind of going on. And when you finish a session, it takes up to a week for the dust to settle. You may be feeling extra sensitive. You may be feeling more tender. You may be feeling super creative. I know people that for days after, all they get is ideas. You have this a lot for up to 36 hours, just this major like dopamine dump where you're just kind of riding the wave of feeling the high of breath work. My guru says breath work is designed to help you feel happy, healthy, and high. And I can attest to that. You are kind of riding the wave after breath work of feeling great, of feeling this dopamine rush, of feeling healthy, of feeling clear.
Is there sort of an optimum number of sessions that you should be doing? Is this something that you do once a week? Is this something that you can practice every day by yourself? Is there a time, a number of sessions you should be doing, could be doing?
Honestly, the more the better. Now, doing a full journey, like with what I offer in my classes or virtual classes, that's intense. That's kind of like doing a spring or fall cleaning. That's some serious inner hygiene work. Little things like if you could do 10 or 15 minutes of breath work, every day, every few days, just something to kind of bring that fresh oxygen in. It's great for the body. And there's so many different tools, even if you're in a stressful situation, especially for your authors as they're trying to market their book and they have an opportunity to send a proposal. And it's like, what do I do? You can incorporate something as simple as a box breath. And what that is you breathe in for a count of 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. You hold for a count of 4. You exhale for a count of 4. And then you hold again for a count of 4. So kind of like if you were to draw it out, it makes a box. And just doing that about 5 times will activate the parasympathetic nervous system and bring them back down to a place of, okay, I got this.
I know that if I've felt anxious before giving a presentation, that even just going into the bathroom and just taking some breaths, counting to 10, breathing in and, holding and breathing out and, that box breathing, as you said. I mean, that just really calms you down. You don't believe that it will until you've experienced it and realize it does.
Yes. And I didn't believe it either. I had, during my training in Spain, when I got certified, they put this this device on me that was synced up to a phone. It was saying where my sympathetic versus my parasympathetic nervous system was. And they had me start breathing a 2-4 breath, which if you Googled all these different breath styles, there's all these different numbers you can count. At the end of the day, what I tell people, as long as your exhales are longer than your inhales, you're good. You're activating the parasympathetic. So anyway, they put this device on me. And I was breathing in for a count of 2. I was breathing out for a count of 4 to activate that parasympathetic nervous system. And it was crazy because you could see on the iPhone, on the app that was tracking my nervous system, just my numbers go down, 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 down. And it took not even 2 minutes for my parasympathetic nervous system to be activated.
Incredible. And I know that they're doing, and I'm sure they've been doing for years, but it's becoming, as you said, it's been more popular the research with regard to breath and just even, as you say, holding your breath for a period of time. What's the record of somebody holding their breath?
Well, last time I checked, which was like a year ago, so with world records, you know how quickly, that information could be outdated. I believe it was a Dutch guy and he held his breath. He wasn't a free diver. When people go for these records, they're kind of just like in a shallow pool. I want to say it's 24 or 26 minutes. So what's encouraging about that is sometimes when people are in a breath hold, and I work them up to it. The first breath I'll do maybe 30 seconds and then a minute and a half. And by the way, I always give people permission to take a sip if they need it. If they feel too overwhelmed, like I can't hold my breath anymore, they are permitted to, take a sip. It is, they're the boss at their journey. However, when you feel, say you're at the 2-minute mark, let's call it that, and it feels like your lungs are almost fluttering, like, like almost to the point of panic, they say that's only 10% of what you can actually hold. Which when I share that with people, it brings people peace and solace. Like, oh, I didn't realize, like I thought at the 2-minute mark I was going to die. Well, not really.
And I know that sipping, that's what I was referring to earlier. It's like, yeah, I've had to sip on occasion because I was like, I don't feel I can hold it anymore. I need a little bit of air.
Totally. And there are sessions that I go through that I can't either. I teach this and guide it for a living. Sometimes it's just where you're at in whatever's going on in your life. There are some times that you could hold your breath really, really well. And there are some times that it's just like, well, today's not the day.
I think that's a great segue, Kimberly, for telling us more about breathwork. Hopefully you've managed to stimulate and lots of excitement and curiosity. So how could our listeners find out more about you, your workshops, which, by the way, as you said, you do live and virtually, which I'm like, oh my goodness, she does them virtually. That's amazing. Yes. So
Yes.
talk to us about that.
I do virtuals, like you were saying, and it's just on Zoom. The beauty there is you could literally be laying in your own bed. That's awesome. And you could be having your headphones on. So you could be as comfortable as you can be with these virtual sessions. So I do virtual sessions. I do, private work with people because some people, breath work, I will say, is a very vulnerable thing, as you and I have experienced, because my very first breathwork session was with you. In a breathwork session, people express a lot. They make sounds, they cry, they scream, they laugh, they move their body. So it is a very vulnerable thing in a group setting, virtually or in person, especially in person. However, the beauty of doing like a private, some people are just more protective, a little bit more private, and that's okay. They don't want people experiencing what they're experiencing or watching them. So having a private setting gives them a little bit more freedom to really express and let it all out. Because sometimes, as you know, breath work is about like letting things go and feeling them deeply. I had a lady the other day and she's like, would you just come to my house and do this for a whole group? Well, yeah, sure. Why not? Let's do it.
So how can they find you? What's your website?
My website is thebreathworkgirl.com. Score on that domain, by the way.
Very good.
And pretty much everything is there. Yep, thebreathworkgirl.com. You can find all my sessions, my in-person, virtual, Instagram, all the things are housed there. So that's just the easiest place to find all the stuff.
Beautiful, beautiful. As you know, we love to leave our listeners with a golden nugget. What would you like to leave our listeners with?
The golden nugget I would love to leave your listeners with is actually, it's something we've all heard before a million times, but it's most famous in my heart, I guess, from my 6-year-old niece who just passed away of cancer. And when I would donate platelets, because I knew they went to cancer patients, I would call her and say, Charlotte, I'm nervous about getting my pinch, meaning my needle. Do you have any advice? And she said, Mimi, just breathe. And that's my message to everyone, is to spread Charlotte's message of just breathing, because life pinches us professionally, financially, especially as you're marketing a book and trying to get speeches. I mean, there's a lot of pinches on that journey. And my message to everyone is, if you can just return to that place and remind yourself to just breathe.
Oh, yes. And I've heard your Charlotte story so many times. And each time I want to cry. And I'm just like, okay, hold it together, Susan.
Me too, girl.
Yes. So just breathe. That's so beautiful. Kimberly, thank you so, so much for sharing this incredible wisdom and this beautiful art and science of really just breathing. So
Yes.
thank you. And listeners, by the way, if your book isn't selling the way you wanted or expected to, let's you and I jump on a quick call together to brainstorm ways to ramp up those sales, because you've invested a whole lot of time, money, and energy, and it's a time you got the return you were hoping for. So go to brainstormwithsusan.com to schedule your free call. And in the meantime, I hope this powerful interview sparked some ideas you can use to sell more books. Until next week, here's wishing you much book and author marketing success.